A couple of points there. I guess I'll go one at a time. How do you feel about the assertion that while Islamic extremism is undeniably the most prominent terroristic force in the world today, that's in large part because the forms of terrorism we commit are state terrorism? That when you have a person like George Bush go up and say that God told him to invade Iraq, and then we go ahead and kill 500,000 people in that country, we've single-handedly accounted for more deaths right there than every case of Islamic, terrorist extremism for decades ahead and behind combined. But we did it all sort of through the legitimacy of a state apparatus, even though it was fundamentally motivated by a reflection of the same basic beliefs: the Christian nationalism, the far-right extremism, the ethno-supremacy. All the basic intents were there. It was just we did it through a state, and they didn't have the money to.
Yeah, as I already said, I think that, when you decide to go and invade a country, attack a country, bomb a country, whatever a country, you're creating the conditions under which you create more terrorism, not less. I have no problem. I've been consistent on that since day one. I remember, I was true story. I was in Windsor, right across the river from Detroit, in March of 2003. I was giving a presentation to American and Canadian law enforcement. And I said point blank, because we all knew Iraq was coming, right? We all knew the Bush administration was going to launch an invasion of Iraq because that's where all the signals were pointed. And I got up literally 2 or 3 days before this happened. I said, this is a bad idea, guys. If we, and by we I meant the Americans, because we had already decided under the Croatian government not to participate. If you guys go in, this is going to be a shit show. Not only are you going to kill a lot of people, you're going to make the problem worse. And, obviously 17 years later, we know it became much worse. As I said, Al-Qaeda, which did not have a major presence in Iraq in 2003, developed one, and they morphed eventually into Islamic State. So I don't disagree with you that the actions that we take could certainly be interpreted and construed as state-sponsored terrorism, because the thing with terrorism is it is in the eye of the beholder. And I'll go back to a famous argument that Ronald Reagan made in the middle 1980s, right, about terrorists and freedom fighters. I was in Nicaragua in 1986. It was a church I belonged to. We were doing some humanitarian work in Nicaragua, and I saw the effects of the Contras, what Contras were doing to Nicaraguan communities. And they were supposedly anti-communist freedom fighters fighting those sons of bitches of Sandinistas who were communists, who had overthrown a brutal dictator, Anastasio Somoza. It's all about perspective. So I certainly don't have a problem accepting that what you choose to call terrorism is extremely subjective. And this is part of the problem of trying to come up with a common definition and appreciation for what the term means. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say what the Bush administration's invasion was what I called state-sponsored terrorism. I would call it state-sponsored idiocy. I would call it state-sponsored violence. I would call it obviously an invasion of a sovereign country with no real reason to do so. And we're in the situation we are today because of that.